Lifted up by Luke Shaw, Ahmad, away by McAllister, Kobe Maynard! Rattles it in at the Stratford end!
Manchester United will be playing Champions League football next season!
After this disaster season, I want to tell you the good days are coming.
After a dismal 15th place finish in the Premier League, Manchester United entered the 2025-26 season with one unmistakable objective: redemption. The consensus around Ruben Amorim was clear. He had inherited a squad stitched together without a coherent plan. Results were inconsistent, but there was a growing sense that context mattered. The hope was that improvements would come after a pre-season and during a campaign free from European commitments. Yet even before the summer window officially opened, the squad's overhaul had already begun. While Amorim had little influence over Johnny Evans's retirement or the departure of Christian Eriksen, whose contract expired just like his hairline, he did have a hand in phasing out most of the underperforming players who went on to leave the club last summer. Among the controversial characters was Rashford, who paradoxically scored the first goal of Amorim's United era, but was also the first to be shown the door. Rashford's lacklustre commitment to the team both on and off the pitch had been simmering for some time. It was a situation that Erik ten Hag had previously struggled to manage, often opting for lenient punishments whenever the player stepped out of line. In stark contrast, Amorim showed no hesitation in taking a hardline approach with not only one of United's highest paid players, but also their most famous homegrown talent of the last decade.
Our team should be so much better with Rashford, but this Rashford, he has to change.
Amorim did cut Garnacho a little more slack, but after the winger repeatedly defied the manager's authority, he was ultimately ordered to find a new club following his petulant reaction to not starting the Europa League final. Amorim also took a no-nonsense approach with Jadon Sancho, Antony and Tyrell Malacia, by initially placing all three in the so-called bomb squad and barring them from training with the first team, although Malacia has since returned to the squad. But let's be honest, you and I totally forgot he even plays for the club. Yes, this stance may have diminished their market values, but it also sent a clear message to everyone, both within and outside the club, about who was in charge. The summer certainly felt like the start of a new chapter. But if there's one thing United's overhaul in attack revealed, it's that the club firmly believed their disastrous campaign last season stemmed from a lack of firepower. United managed only 44 league goals last season, with just 7 of those coming from their strikers, Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee. The new attacking potential was certainly there for all to see. Cunha had his most prolific season with 17 goals and 6 assists for Wolves, stat padding at a relegation-threatened team no less. Mbeumo scored 20 Premier League goals for Brentford last season, a tally no United player has reached since Robin van Persie 12 years ago. While Sesko had a slight dip in his second season at Leipzig, netting 13 goals compared to 14 in his first, despite playing 13 more matches, the 22-year-old arrived as an unpolished diamond with immense potential. Initially, however, their arrivals sparked a flurry of questions and doubts. Could 2 hefty signings from mid-table sides really deliver on the big stage? And would yet another high-profile acquisition from the Bundesliga fall flat in the Premier League? By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, we'd be incredibly grateful if you subscribed. Your support helps us grow and continue creating the content you love. United kicked off the new campaign with what was their 10th league home defeat in less than a year. But their performance in that narrow 1-0 loss to Arsenal actually felt promising. They enjoyed 61% of possession and registered 22 shots compared to Arsenal's 9, and looked sharp, direct and organised, the kind of performance that suggested Amorim's ideas were starting to stick. However, their next 5 matches were a real mixed bag. A chance to build on that opening day performance was wasted when sloppy play let Fulham snatch a draw. Then in a display of baffling self-sabotage, during which United somehow surrendered the lead twice in the second half. It took a 96th minute Bruno Fernandes penalty to scrape a win against relegation favourites Burnley. Beating 10-man Chelsea gave the fans something to cheer after that 3-0 humiliation in the Manchester derby. But any momentum was undone by a 3-1 defeat at Brentford that brutally exposed United's vulnerability to quick transitions and highlighted their ongoing glaring problems in goal. However, the low point of the season, and arguably one of the lowest in United's recent history, let alone during Amorim's tenure, came with that humiliating penalty defeat to 4th-tier side Grimsby Town in late August. Originally, United planned to sign a new keeper only after selling either Onana or Altay Bayindir last summer, but that plan was quickly abandoned after Onana's blunders in that now infamous Carabao Cup exit. Seriously, the guy honestly couldn't even save a PDF, along with Bayindir's failure to make an impression when given the chance. Last summer, Ruben Amorim had set his sights on veteran goalkeeper Emi Martinez, urging the United board to secure the Argentine from Aston Villa. However, the club's hierarchy ultimately blocked the move and opted for the young Senna Lammens, who joined on a deadline day deal from Royal Antwerp for about £18 million. Meanwhile, Onana, now dropped down the pecking order behind both Bayindir and Lammens, sought a loan to Turkish Super League side Trabzonspor. Additionally, Onana's audacity in asking for a better contract, even after the entire squad faced salary cuts for missing out on Champions League football this season, apparently didn't sit well with Amorim. Too rigid.
They've been hopeless in the system. They've been absolutely hopeless.
Too inflexible.
You know, he's playing 3-5-2, it isn't working. Good managers change.
Too idealistic.
Bringing a manager like that in terms of the system that he played, I don't think ever really suited the club of the traditions of Manchester United.
Ruben Amorim's system has faced relentless criticism since he became manager at Manchester United, and it's no wonder fans and players alike have questioned it during rough patches. But if there's one surefire way to validate any game plan, it's by winning matches.
The cross in, finds Mason Mount. Mason Mount towards the back post. Harry Maguire going to fight this back. Brian Mbeumo in the penalty area, finishes it off. No nerves now.
For the first time under Amorim, United have strung together 3 Premier League wins in a row, though getting there probably left many fans shitting themselves by the end of that Brighton game. It feels vaguely embarrassing that 3 straight wins are seen as an accomplishment for United, yet it's the first time they've achieved this under Amorim, and the first time for the club since February 2024. That certainly counts for something, right? But when United then went on a 5-game unbeaten run, including gritty away draws at Nottingham Forest and Tottenham, the narrative around Amorim shifted completely. No longer were people rambling on about whether he needed to ditch his 3-4-2-1 system, though it was clear there had been tweaks to his methods behind the scenes to better suit his players. The biggest change was tempo. United began playing faster, using long balls and a more direct style, ditching the slow build-up play from the back that plagued them last season like coronavirus, and in the process, cutting down turnovers in their defensive third. By match day 11, Amorim's side had attempted the 3rd most long balls in the league, and their attack, ranked 5th slowest last season, had climbed to the 8th fastest. Given the lack of midfield reinforcements last summer, it's also easy to see why Amorim stuck with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro in the double pivot, thanks to their ability to deliver long diagonal balls quickly and with precision. Playing long and direct also allowed the pair to avoid having to defend vast swathes of space and play more with the action in front of them rather than chasing opponents back toward their own goal. Elsewhere, the 2 number 10s, Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo, have injected new life into United's transitional attacks by steering clear of the slack passes and heavy touches that plagued United's attacking rhythm in previous seasons. At the same time, Amorim's side looked stronger defensively since adjusting its out-of-possession structure, with the number 10s dropping back to better shield the midfield double pivot, one that has been far too open to penetration in the past few seasons. This level of coordination was never going to happen overnight, as each player must not only understand their role, but also anticipate their teammates' actions with sharper decision-making. But perhaps the single biggest difference maker has been Senna Lammens, for had he not replaced Andre Onana in goal last summer, United's results likely wouldn't have improved, their defence would still be struggling, and they would be closer to a one-way ticket to the Championship than the Premier League's top 4. Amorim was patient with his new keeper, not rushing the 23-year-old into action since he hadn't been signed with the expectation of stepping straight into the starting role. And to the delight of the entire fanbase, Lammens has been a calm and reassuring presence from the moment he made his debut against Sunderland in early October, where he kept a clean sheet and has solidified his place ever since. It's certainly no coincidence that United's results began to improve as soon as Lammens took over in goal. Injury and AFCON absences made the following month a challenging one for Ruben Amorim. Yes, performances such as against Bournemouth and Newcastle offered clear glimpses of what a fully functioning attack and defence could look like. But despite those flashes of progress, Amorim's tactical vision never felt wholly compatible with this squad. And, like for much of the season, United still muddled through games they should have won, especially against sides that sat deep, grappling with familiar issues and struggling to convince their wide and disparate fan base that the good times Amorim spoke of at the end of last season were on the horizon. The 1-1 result against Leeds and Amorim's subsequent sacking meant United picked up just 13 points from his last 9 games in what was a run of relatively modest opponents, even if they were in 6th place and within touching distance of the Champions League spots. Amorim had called out his players and himself before.
We are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United.
But a fiery press conference following the Leeds game was the first time he turned his sharp criticism toward the powers above.
No, guys, I just want to say that I came here to be the manager of Manchester United, not to be the coach. And every department, the scouting department, the sport director needs to do their job. I will do mine for 18 months and then we move on.
Thank you, guys.
He finally exposed tensions that had been simmering behind the scenes in recent weeks regarding the hierarchy's interference in his tactical decisions, supposedly his domain of authority. And while their relationship had once appeared strong, the tone of Amorim's remarks indicated a marked change. He effectively urged United's hierarchy to trust him with the level of control and authority he believed he deserved and had been promised to begin with. Compounding this high-pressure situation was the board's lack of January transfer commitments, which further frustrated Amorim. But after implicitly asking them to either back him or sack him, they ultimately chose the latter. Amorim, to his credit, stuck to his path, but that commitment is partly why he lost his job. Former midfielder Darren Fletcher was fast-tracked from the youth setup to the first team and had 2 games as a caretaker manager to show what he can do. However, a 2-2 draw at relegation threatened Burnley, and the FA Cup exit to Brighton proved that while knowing the club may be necessary, it certainly isn't sufficient. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looked like the early front-runner to take over as interim head coach. But in the end, United took a different route than in 2018 and this time placed their hopes on another club legend. City at home. Arsenal away.
Dorgan takes it with him. Dorgan's left-footed effort. Oh, it's a screamer!
Villa at home.
Into the penalty area. Cunha scores for Manchester United.
2 months is all it took Michael Carrick to turn the good days that Amorim spoke of last season into a reality at Old Trafford. With 7 wins from his first 10 games in charge, the upturn in results was obvious while the lift in mood, undeniable. Under Carrick, the switch to a back 4 has allowed United to field an extra attacking profile regardless of their shape across different phases of play. And by restoring a familiar 4-2-3-1, it has allowed his players to shine in their natural roles. Significantly, this has freed up a spot for Bruno Fernandes in the central number 10 role, in turn allowing Mainu to slot right into the double pivot alongside Casemiro. His partnership with Casemiro, one that Amorim had deemed unfeasible, has been impressive in of itself, let alone the fact that it has freed up Bruno to flourish higher up the field. Carrick's arrival has seen United emphasise playing more centrally than under Amorim. His team is operating closer together in the middle of the pitch to combine with speed, and favouring half-space play more often than Amorim, who relied more on his team shifting the ball out to the wing-backs to progress the attack. The wings still matter, of course, and much of United's play remains directed down the flanks, with the greatest threat coming from the right. Luke Shaw at left-back has regularly stepped inside to form a back 3 alongside the centre-backs, allowing Diogo Dalot to push higher on the right to combine with Ahmad and overload opponents down that side, while Lisandro Martinez looked to hit long passes into the space. Out of possession, United formed a disciplined 4-4-2 low block, involving Bruno signalling when he believed it best to drop off or press high, just as their opponents looked ready to settle. And it worked! Compact and organised at the back, fast and aggressive when going forward, and calm and assured in possession. They began to embody the very qualities their manager demanded. But if there was one storyline that stole the headlines during Carrick's early spell, it was the resurgence of Sesko, who netted 9 goals across his first 13 games under caretaker manager Darren Fletcher and then Carrick. In stark contrast to the 2 he managed in 17 appearances under Amorim. However, this uptick in goals didn't magically arise from the shift away from Amorim's 3-4-2-1 system. Instead, it's been the result of Sesko's growing confidence and increasingly consistent off-ball movements since his return from injury. Perhaps the narrative of Sesko's struggles arises from his inconsistency, or the fact that he hasn't yet delivered a defining goal or moment. That was until his hair-raising last-minute winner against Fulham at the Stretford end. And then again when he finished off a slick counter to snatch victory from Everton. And then again when he nodded in what would be the winner against Crystal Palace. And despite coming off the bench in 6 of Carrick's first 7 matches, he still made decisive impacts in 5 of them, scoring 3 winners and an equaliser, all of which have single-handedly earned his team 10 crucial points.
Sesko again was fantastic.
It's some turnaround, isn't it? I mean, he only scored twice all season under Ruben Amorim. Since he left, he's had 7 appearances and 6 goals. Benjamin Sesko.
By the end of March, the team's turnaround in results had dramatically shifted expectations, and anything less than a top 5 finish would now feel like an underachievement. The climb was not without setbacks. A 2-1 home defeat to Leeds laid bare the effects of a sparse match schedule. After going 24 days without a match due to an international break and no FA Cup games, United looked short of rhythm and sharpness. Yet just as momentum under Carrick seemed to be fading, United found another gear. Strung together more wins, including against their top 5 rivals, and sealed their place in next season's Champions League with a memorable Menu winner against Liverpool at Old Trafford. It was the crowning moment of the final consequential game of the season and of a transformative 4 months for United. With it, Carrick had achieved the target set out for him upon his appointment, and at the centre of it all, applying the finishing touch, was Menu, the symbol of United's resurgence. Ultimately, results are what will strengthen or weaken Carrick's case to take the job permanently. But after 8 wins and only 1 defeat from his 11 games in charge, he has strengthened his case as convincingly as anyone could reasonably have hoped. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you never miss a beat. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.